So at the very basic level, a union budget for a year is basically the annual financial statement. And to put it even more simply, it's a statement of the estimated receipts and estimated expenditures of the government for that particular year. It's part of the Indian Constitution. So Article 112 of the Indian Constitution talks about the need to lay out in Parliament this statement so that everyone is on the same page and one gets a sense of what the government has in plan for the coming year. The first budget of independent India was, of course, in 1947. And I encourage the listeners to go and look at it. All budgets are available on indiabudget.gov.in. And they're fascinating because you can get a sense of how the country's policies, priorities have changed over a period of time. So, of course, the first budget was a short one. It was from 15th August to 31st March, so a little over 7 months, and presented by the Finance Minister Chetty. As you can imagine, partition was a running theme in the budget. There was a heavy burden on the exchequer, so finances were limited. I was looking at it just to refresh my memory, and it was fascinating that the revenues at that time was 171 crore or so. And to put this into perspective, the revenue receipts this year in 21-22 budget were estimated at 17.8 lakh crore. So 171 crore versus 17.8 lakh crore. That's how our budgets have changed over a period of time. I think another useful one that I would again encourage listeners to go and read about is the 1951 budget. It's the first budget of the Republic of India. And it had an important role because it laid down in some ways the idea of the Planning Commission. The body of the Planning Commission, which is now no longer there since 2014, and we have the Niti Aayog, but it played an important role in assessing the resources of the country and planning for the use of those resources. So these two budgets, I think, are budgets that most of us don't actually end up looking at, but they're useful to go back in history and just see some of these budgets because, like I said, you get a sense of how the country's priorities have changed, and that's what budgets are, an important window of trying to assess some of that. To explain for India specifically, the way that it happens, and I'll stick for now on the budget formulation stage. Typically, the budget division of the Department of Economic Affairs under the Ministry of Finance plays a really important role. The process of formulation starts around August, September. In fact, it starting earlier because the budget date itself got shifted from 28th of February to 1st of February. And so the planning process starts about August, September. To start off with, the way that it works is that a budget circular is circulated amongst all ministries with detailed instructions on the kind of information that needs to be presented by the ministries to the Ministry of Finance. So again, all the budget circulars are also on the Ministry of Finance website. It's important to remember that the ministries are requested to put out 3 different types of estimates for both expenditures and receipts, if they have receipts. So earlier there was a planning commission, and ministries would provide budget estimates for plan expenditure and non-plan expenditure separately, and the planning commission used to play a big role in the plan expenditure part of it. Now, with the Planning Commission no longer around, there are about 3 institutions that play a key role. One is, of course, the Ministry of Finance, which is the main body that is holding the budget. The second one that is really important is the budget division within the Department of Economic Affairs. That's a body that's responsible for the budget preparation. And then, of course, there's the Niti Aayog, which provides recommendations and suggestions. So during the final stages of the budget preparation, all the ministries that earn revenue, and again, not every ministry is a revenue earning ministry, they'll provide estimates of how much revenue they anticipate. These are then, of course, collated by the Ministry of Finance. And the way that it goes is that there is a lot of back and forth that happens. In some of our analysis, we've seen that often ministries ask for certain funds, and naturally, not everyone will get what they had wanted. So there is a rationalization that happens across ministries. And so some of that process happens. What you'll also see is that around January, December, a lot of meetings, pre-budget meetings and consultations are had with experts, where the government tries to get in some views of people in different expertise and specialization. In terms of secrecy, I think it's partly to, it's in some ways you're trying to isolate yourself from any interference. I think the budget making process is a very sacred process. So you don't want a situation where the budget is being leaked, or any changes, or anyone interferes in something that is very deeply and inherently a part of the sovereignty of a country. So this blue sheet of paper, which has all the key numbers, is like the blueprint of the budget, and that's also kept in usually the sole custody of one of the joint secretaries of budget. I think there was a time when there was a fear that some of it had got leaked. So they did shift the budget making process in terms of the location a little bit. But it's always fascinating to me also when I first read up about this, that many of the officers who are involved in it are kind of kept in the basement. You don't really have contact with the outside world. And so it is shrouded in secrecy.